You're waking up for the third time tonight to use the bathroom. Again. And as you're standing there, waiting, wondering why this simple thing that used to take 10 seconds now feels like it's never going to start, you tell yourself the same thing you told yourself last week: I'm just getting older. It's normal, I'll mention it at my next checkup. But here's what most men don't realize. Your prostate doesn't just suddenly fail one day. It sends you signals, sometimes for months or even years, quietly asking for help. And the difference between catching these signs early and ignoring them? It can literally be the difference between a simple treatment and a life-altering diagnosis. I'm a urologist, and I've had thousands of conversations with men who wish they'd paid attention sooner. Not because they were careless, but because nobody ever explained what to actually look for. So today, we're going to talk about the 5 signs that your prostate might be in trouble. And I'm going to tell you exactly what each one means, why it happens, and what you should do about it. This isn't about scaring you. It's about giving you the information you need to take control of your health before small problems become big ones. Let's start with something you've probably experienced but might not have connected to your prostate. You're urinating and everything seems normal, and then a few minutes later, you feel like you need to go again. Or worse, you finish, zip up, and then feel a few drops leak out when you're walking away. This is called post-void dribbling, and it's one of the earliest signs that your prostate might be enlarging. Here's what's happening. Your prostate sits right below your bladder and wraps around your urethra, which is the tube that carries urine out of your body. When your prostate starts to grow, which happens to most men as they age, it can squeeze that urethra just enough to create problems with urine flow. But here's the sneaky part. It doesn't squeeze evenly. Sometimes it creates little pockets where urine can get trapped. So even when you think you're done, there's still urine sitting in your urethra that slowly drips out afterward. Now, I know what you're thinking. That happens to everyone sometimes, right? And you're correct. Occasional dribbling after urination isn't necessarily a red flag, but if this is happening regularly, if you're finding yourself needing to shake longer, or if you're noticing wet spots on your underwear that weren't there before, your prostate is trying to tell you something. The good news is that this is often one of the first signs, which means if you catch it now, you have options. Lifestyle changes, medications, even simple pelvic floor exercises can make a real difference. But if you ignore it, that enlargement is probably going to continue, and the next signs are going to be harder to dismiss. The second sign is something that affects your sleep and your quality of life more than almost anything else. Waking up multiple times at night to urinate. In medical terms, we call this nocturia, and it's incredibly common. But common doesn't mean normal, and it definitely doesn't mean you should just accept it. Here's why this matters so much. Quality sleep isn't a luxury. It's essential for your immune system, your mental health, your cardiovascular health, everything. When you're waking up 2, 3, 4 times a night to use the bathroom, you're never getting into that deep, restorative sleep your body needs. Men tell me all the time that they're exhausted, irritable, struggling to focus at work, and they think it's just stress or age. But when we address their prostate issues and their sleep improves, it's like watching someone get their life back. So what's actually happening? When your prostate enlarges, it doesn't just affect the flow of urine, it also affects how your bladder functions. Your bladder has to work harder to push urine past that obstruction, and over time, the bladder muscle can actually thicken and become more sensitive. It starts sending you urgent signals to urinate even when it's not very full. During the day, you might be able to ignore these signals because you're busy and distracted. But at night, when everything is quiet and you're lying down, your body is more aware of that sensation. Plus, when your horizontal fluid that's been accumulating in your legs during the day redistributes throughout your body, and some of it ends up in your kidneys, creating more urine. Now, how do you know if your nighttime bathroom trips are prostate-related or something else? Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're under 50 and waking up more than once a night, or if you're over 50 and waking up more than twice, it's worth talking to your doctor. And if the amount you're urinating at night is small, if you're just producing a little bit each time, that's actually more suggestive of a prostate issue than a bladder or kidney problem. Don't just accept broken sleep as part of getting older. This is fixable and you deserve to sleep through the night. The third sign is the one most men ignore, and honestly, it might be the most important one on this list. Difficulty starting urination, or what we call urinary hesitancy. You stand at the toilet or urinal, and instead of urine flowing immediately, there's this delay. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, sometimes longer. You might find yourself bearing down or pushing to get things started. You might even need to run water or think about waterfalls, anything to trigger that stream. And here's why men ignore this. It happens gradually. It doesn't happen overnight. So you adapt. You don't even realize you're spending an extra 30 seconds every time you urinate because it crept up on you so slowly. But this sign is critically important because it tells us that the obstruction is getting significant. Think of your urethra like a garden hose. If someone puts a small kink in it, water still comes out, just with a little less pressure. But if that kink gets tighter, eventually you have to really work to get any water through at all. That's what's happening when you have hesitancy. Your bladder is generating pressure, but it's having to build up enough force to overcome the resistance created by your enlarged prostate. And the longer this goes on, the more your bladder has to work, and the weaker it can become over time. It's like asking a muscle to constantly lift something heavy. Eventually it gets fatigued. Here's what really concerns me about this sign. By the time you're experiencing significant hesitancy, your prostate has likely been enlarging for a while, and you might already be at risk for complications. One of those complications is something called urinary retention, where you literally can't empty your bladder at all. This is a medical emergency that requires a catheter, and trust me, you do not want to experience that if you can avoid it. The other concern is that hesitancy can sometimes, not always, but sometimes, be an early sign of prostate cancer. Not to scare you, but prostate cancer can cause the gland to become firm and press on the urethra in ways that create obstruction. So if you're noticing this symptom, especially if you're over 50 or have a family history of prostate cancer, please don't wait. Get it checked. A simple exam and a PSA blood test can give you peace of mind or catch something early when it's most treatable. The fourth sign is one that men rarely talk about, even with their doctors, because it feels embarrassing. A weak urine stream or a stream that starts and stops. You used to be able to stand back and have a strong, steady flow. Now the stream is weak, maybe it splits into two directions, or it stops and starts like a sputtering faucet. Some men describe it as feeling like they're urinating through a coffee stirrer instead of a normal opening. This is a direct result of that narrowing we've been talking about. When your prostate squeezes the urethra, the opening that urine has to pass through becomes smaller. Physics tells us that when you force the same amount of fluid through a smaller opening, the pressure should increase and the stream should be faster. But that's not what happens with your urinary system because your bladder can only generate so much pressure. Instead, the stream becomes weaker and less forceful. What makes this particularly frustrating is that it affects your daily life in ways you might not even connect at first. You're taking longer in the bathroom, which makes you self-conscious in public restrooms. You might find yourself avoiding situations where you'd have to use a urinal next to other people because you're embarrassed about how long it takes or how weak your stream is. Some men start sitting down to urinate at home because it's less messy when the stream isn't as controlled. And again, because this happens gradually, you might not even realize how much it's changed until you really think about it. Try to remember what urinating was like 5 or 10 years ago. Is it different now? That's your answer. The medical term for this is decreased force of stream, and it's often measured using something called uroflowmetry, which is just a fancy word for a test that measures how quickly you urinate. Normal flow rate for men is typically above 15 milliliters per second. When you have significant prostate enlargement, that can drop to 10, 8, even 5 milliliters per second. That might not sound like a big difference, but it means you're taking 2 or 3 times as long to empty your bladder, and you're probably not emptying it completely. That incomplete emptying is important because leftover urine in your bladder can increase your risk of urinary tract infections, bladder stones, and even kidney damage over time if the back pressure becomes severe enough. The fifth sign is perhaps the most alarming, but also the most clear-cut signal that you need medical attention immediately: blood in your urine. In medical terms, we call this hematuria, and it can appear in 2 ways. Sometimes you can see it clearly. Your urine looks pink, red, or even cola-colored. Other times it's microscopic, meaning you can't see it with your naked eye, but it shows up on a urine test. Either way, it should never be ignored. Now, let me be clear about something. Blood in your urine doesn't automatically mean cancer. In fact, there are many causes. Enlarged prostate with inflamed blood vessels, urinary tract infections, kidney stones, even vigorous exercise can sometimes cause it, but it can also be a sign of bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or prostate cancer, which is why it always requires investigation. When an enlarged prostate presses against the bladder neck or urethra, it can cause tiny blood vessels in those areas to become fragile and break. You might notice blood after straining to urinate or after physical activity. The amount can vary from just a faint pink tinge to what looks like pure blood, and it might happen once and then disappear for weeks or months. That intermittent pattern actually makes it more dangerous because men see it, get worried, then when it goes away, they convince themselves it was nothing. But here's the thing, the absence of blood doesn't mean the problem is gone. It just means it's not bleeding at that particular moment. If you see blood in your urine, even once, you need to see a doctor. They'll likely order imaging studies like an ultrasound or CT scan to look at your kidneys, bladder, and prostate. They'll do a cystoscopy, which is a procedure where a small camera is inserted through your urethra to directly visualize your bladder and prostate. And they'll check your PSA level and possibly do a prostate biopsy if there's any concern for cancer. I know that sounds intense, but finding answers is always better than living with uncertainty and fear. Most of the time, we find something treatable and manageable. But even when we do find cancer, catching it early makes an enormous difference in outcomes. Now let's talk about what ties all these signs together. Benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, which is just a medical way of saying your prostate is enlarged but not cancerous. This affects about 50% of men in their 50s and up to 90% of men in their 80s. It's incredibly common, and it's a natural part of aging for most men. But natural doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. We have so many treatment options now, ranging from medications that relax the prostate and improve urine flow, to medications that actually shrink the prostate over time, to minimally invasive procedures that can remove or reduce the obstructing tissue without major surgery. The key is catching it before it progresses to the point where you're dealing with complications. Acute urinary retention, where you suddenly can't urinate at all, is not only painful and terrifying, it can also damage your bladder permanently if it happens repeatedly. Chronic high pressure in the bladder can back up into your kidneys and cause kidney damage. Bladder stones can form in urine that sits too long. Recurrent urinary tract infections become more common. None of these are inevitable if you address the problem early. But we also can't ignore the other possibility, which is prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is the second most common cancer in men, and while it's often slow-growing and very treatable, it can also be aggressive, especially in younger men or men with a family history. The symptoms of prostate cancer can be identical to BPH in the early stages, which is why you can't diagnose yourself based on symptoms alone. You need a proper evaluation. The good news is that when prostate cancer is caught early, while it's still confined to the prostate, the cure rate is extremely high, often over 95%. But when it's caught late, after it's spread beyond the prostate, treatment becomes much more complicated and outcomes are less certain. So what should you actually do if you're experiencing any of these signs? First, don't panic. Seriously, most prostate problems are not cancer, and most are very manageable with treatment. Second, make an appointment with your doctor. I'd recommend seeing a urologist if you can, but your primary care doctor can also do initial testing and refer you if needed. Be honest about your symptoms. I can't tell you how many times men downplay what they're experiencing because they're embarrassed or don't want to seem like they're complaining. Your doctor has heard it all before, I promise. The more accurate information you provide, the better they can help you. Your doctor will likely start with a physical exam, including a digital rectal exam. I know, nobody loves that part, but it gives us incredibly valuable information about the size, shape, and texture of your prostate that we can't get any other way. They'll order a PSA blood test, which measures a protein produced by your prostate. Elevated PSA can indicate BPH, prostatitis, or cancer, so it's not diagnostic by itself, but it's an important piece of the puzzle. They might also do a urinalysis to check for infection or blood, and possibly order an ultrasound to measure how completely you're emptying your bladder and to get a better look at your prostate size. Based on those results, you'll have options. For mild symptoms, we might start with watchful waiting and lifestyle modifications. Things like limiting fluids before bedtime, reducing caffeine and alcohol, which can irritate the bladder, doing pelvic floor exercises to strengthen the muscles that control urination, and timing your fluid intake so you're drinking more during the day and less at night. For moderate symptoms, medications are often incredibly effective. Alpha blockers like tamsulosin can relax the smooth muscle in the prostate and bladder neck, improving flow within days to weeks. 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride can actually shrink the prostate over several months, providing longer-term relief. For more severe symptoms, or if medications aren't effective, there are minimally invasive procedures. Things like UROLIFT, where small implants hold the prostate tissue out of the way, or Resume, which uses steam to destroy excess prostate tissue, or laser procedures that vaporize or cut away the obstructing tissue. And yes, traditional surgery is still an option for very large prostates or complicated cases, but it's far less common now than it used to be because our other options have gotten so good. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Your prostate health matters. It affects your sleep, your comfort, your quality of life, and potentially your longevity. The signs we talked about today, the post-void dribbling, the nighttime urination, the hesitancy, the weak stream, and especially blood in your urine, these aren't things you should just accept or ignore. They're your body's way of asking for help. And the beautiful thing is, we have help to offer. We have treatments that work. We have early detection methods that save lives. But it all starts with you paying attention and taking action. I also want to normalize something. Taking care of your prostate health doesn't make you weak or old or overly worried. It makes you smart. It makes you someone who values their health and their future. Some of the strongest, most capable men I know are the ones who aren't afraid to address health issues head-on instead of pretending they don't exist. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, please schedule that appointment. Have that conversation, get checked. Your future self will thank you. And if you found this information helpful, do me a favor. Share it with the men in your life, your dad, your brother, your friends. Because most men aren't going to seek out this information on their own, but if you send it to them, if you start the conversation, you might literally save someone's life, or at least save them from years of unnecessary discomfort. Drop a comment below and let me know, have you experienced any of these signs? What made you finally decide to get checked? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take action. And if you want to stay informed about men's health topics that actually matter, hit that subscribe button. I'm here to give you real information from a real urologist. No hype, no scare tactics, just honest conversations about your health. Take care of yourselves, and remember, paying attention to your body isn't paranoia, it's wisdom.